Recently, Stephen and I were making one of the biggest life decisions that we've ever made, or at least it felt like that. And you'll probably hear more soon on a podcast what that life decision was, how we came about that. But we really wanted to talk today on today's episode about how to make powerful decisions and how to make them quickly and fast, and really like some of our biggest takeaways from a very intense couple of months. And on today's episode, you're actually going to hear a recording that Stephen did inside our Rainmaker mastermind community. A couple of times a month, Stephen comes on for what we call Mentorship Monday and really trains on a topic that he feels like is really important for our community to hear. Oftentimes that's bringing in a 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur just to share with the community their wisdom. And this is an exclusive training that happened to be in our mastermind, but we really felt like it was important for you as a valued listener to hear this decision, because in life, we are always faced with decisions. What kind of decision, whether it's like, what kind of coffee should we have in the morning, all the way to like, what school are we sending our kid, or what kind of like product are we launching, or business are we going to invest in? And it's important to know how to make decisions powerfully that's best for you and your family. And so in this episode, Stephen really walks you through our process, some of the things that we've learned in making powerful decisions time and time again. So I hope that you are able to take some wisdom that was shared during this episode. You might also hear like Stephen reference a couple student names or just having a little bit interaction in this episode. But just remember, it is a special sneak peek into the mastermind that we felt like was important for you to hear.
So today we're talking about decision making. Me and Chelsey have been going through like a pretty monumental decision, I feel like, lately. And so I just have been having a lot of revelation around this, because I feel like you get better at this when it goes to entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is a lot of decision making. It's a lot of reps on making decisions, powerful decisions, swift decisions, and not getting stuck in the indecision, right? Because it'll slow you down. And but sometimes like there are big decisions and there's like small decisions, and those are small decisions that feel like big decisions. And so I want to give you some frameworks. I'm calling these my 8-figure frameworks on how I make decisions, small and big. Okay, so I got some stuff for like the small decisions that you can just keep in your back pocket that'll really help you out and help empower family members too, who are coming to you, kids who are coming to you with things that they want to, make decisions on. Going to help you on that. And then on the big decision side of things, like these are the things that I'm like, man, this is like life-changing. This is like, wow, like I feel like there's this way and that way, and I'm just not sure. And it's playing tug of war in your mind. That's what we're going to be going into today on today's Mentorship Monday. I really want to go into the conversation of decision making. I feel like these Mentorship Monday calls, they're about, us mentoring you in the process. Like these are things that have helped us out. Like I wish people had told me, and honestly, a lot of people did tell me these things. Like I've had mentors in my life for years. I did have mentors like really in the Amazon space, but in the entrepreneurship space, we've had a lot of people go ahead of us and speak into us. And I'm so, so grateful for mentors in my life. And that's why I want to provide this for you twice a month. On Mondays, it's usually me, or we're bringing an expert trainer. Next Mentorship Monday, we have Ali, what is it? I can't pronounce her last name. Björk. Ali Björk coming in. I always forget how to pronounce her last name, but it's like Bjer. So she's coming in and talking about creating tiny offers. This is something that she's made over 7 figures doing. And so that's going to be super cool training. I met her in a mastermind that we were in together. And she's a mom. She loves speaking into moms. And so it is a really cool fit to bring her in. So that was supposed to be this week, but she had a scheduling conflict. So we pushed that to the next Mentorship Monday. And this week I was really thinking about, I always like to bring you like in the moment stuff. And I feel like this is one of those things that comes up from time to time for me. But it has been more frequently coming up. And we just been processing through, how do you make big decisions? Like how do you make big decisions? I actually was invited to speak on this topic in a slightly different way. And so I already took a first swing on it with that group. And I feel like it was an okay talk, but I feel like now I can really bring you guys like some really actionable stuff, because I've already done a rep on this and I've really been processing this, because usually I've had a lot of just like, I think it's just natural. Like I'm just kind of like, let's just make the decision, swift decision maker. Like that's just kind of natural to me. But I'm around a lot of entrepreneurs that aren't like that. And if you're not like that, that's totally okay. But recently we've had a decision that's come up that has really tested this. And like, really, like, I've been also just wallowing back and forth with that tug of war of like, yes, no, I don't know, and I just like been really feeling it the last month. And so I've just been processing through these things and coming back to frameworks, because frameworks can be very helpful in the frazzle, right? Like when life is hitting you and things are happening, it's nice to come back to like tools. I remember in the early days of our marriage, we went to marriage counseling and they gave us tools, right? And like communication tools. And like, we still come back to those tools in the frazzle of life and things are heating up. We're like, hey, what do you need? Right? To come back to these tools that we learned in the early days, and it kind of like centers you. And so that's what I'm going to give you today, is some tools that have really helped me in decision making. And I specifically want to talk about small decisions and big decisions. Okay. So first, let's talk about small decisions. Let me share my screen. And then if we have time at the end, if you have like a big decision you're wrestling with right now, I don't care if it's about Amazon or about life or like whatever, like, I think we can talk it through. So be thinking of that. Okay. And I'm going to share my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you guys could see my iPad and also still hear me. We're having a little audio issues, but the AirPod is working good for now, I think. Okay, cool. You guys can see that. Give me a thumbs up if you see okay, cool. I love this quote. It's from Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich, a classic, I feel like, entrepreneurship book. I've only read it once. I know people have like read it a million times, but I do love this quote. Successful people make decisions quickly and change them very slowly, if ever. Unsuccessful people make decisions very slowly and change them often and quickly. I don't know if you guys have that person in your life who just like, it's such a hard time making decisions. Okay, maybe you're that person. Like I said, I'm not naturally that person, but lately, like on this one thing that me and Chelsea have been wrestling, like, oh, should we do it? I don't know. Like, it has been very back and forth. And so I've learned to just like, okay, I got to make decisions quickly, because when you're in indecision, you're really stagnating. You're really like slowing down, and it's okay to go slow. And like me and Chelsea, like, we're big into like holding our peace, right? And so sometimes if you move too fast on something, you can kind of lose your peace in the process. And I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about building a muscle. And there are ways to build this muscle with entrepreneurship. And I like, we have done this for years and years and years with entrepreneurship. So like now when it's like a business thing, like it was like just yesterday, like I invested in something for the business, $35,000. Boom. No big deal. Just didn't even think about it. It was like flipping a coin. Like I was like, it took me so long to get there, you guys. So I'm sharing this from like building that muscle over a long period of time. Like that would have scared me so badly years ago. And it started with a $500 decision that was scary. And there was a $2,000 decision that's scary. There was a $5,000 decision that's scary. There was a 10, then a 50, then $100,000 decision, right? Like we made $500,000 decisions, and it's a scary thing at every single level. But you build this like muscle, this comfortability with the feeling, right? You're like, I recognize this. Like, this is the thing. I've done this before at a different level. And you start to build that authority. We're going to talk about authority today. Okay. And I really believe like you move at the speed of your decisions. You move at the speed of your decisions. Now, there can be right decisions and wrong decisions, but I'm also going to challenge that thinking a little bit today as well. And I think it's going to bring some freedom to some people that are maybe wallowing between two decisions and really like, I don't want to miss it. Like if you've been saying, I don't want to miss this, I have some encouraging words for you today. Okay, so let's first talk about small decisions. Okay, these are like the day-to-day. Okay, the day-to-day decisions. These are the ones that like just come to you here and there. Oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Maybe you have a team and they're bringing you stuff. Maybe you have kids and they're bringing you stuff. And so I want to give you some really easy framework for the small decisions. Now, these can work with the big decisions, but often the big decisions take a little more chewing, a little more like wrestling. And so, but I want to talk to the small decision frameworks, because these ones, like I come back to these like every week, like every day I'm using these in our team. Like Rainmaker's organization is about 75 people. So we have like 16 full-time employees, and we have like a ton of contractors, right? So there's just decisions needing to be made all the time. And not only do I need to make decisions, I need to train leaders underneath me to make decisions like I would make decisions, right? And so these are frameworks we use as a team, and they're so helpful. You may have heard of some of these, okay? Because we talk about them a lot. They've been so helpful. The first one's the 1-3-1. Raise your hand if you know the 1-3-1. The 1-3-1 is just an absolute game changer. You should do this with your kids. You should do this in your life, because it puts authority and power back in the hand of the person who's making the decision or coming to you with something, right? And you can also do it with yourself. But like if you lead someone, you lead team, you're on the board at your church, or in the school board, or, your kids are coming to you like, oh, I want to do this, trip this summer, whatever it is. Like the 1-through-1 is so powerful. And what it does is it just makes people think, instead of coming to you as like, leaning really heavy on you. It's okay if they want to lean on you as a mentor or someone as a guiding force in their life, right? But like, you want to empower them to make decisions on their own. That's what I'm trying to do with you guys, as well as like 1-through-1 it, right? So when there's a problem, when there's a problem, something comes out, email from Amazon, your account's being taken down, like whatever it is, okay? Or there's a decision to be made. Oh, should I hire a PPC company or not, right? You can always, if you start thinking 1-through-1, it's one problem, it's 3 possible solutions, okay? And 1 recommendation, or 1 way you're leaning, okay? And so whenever a problem comes up, I'm always like, how can I 1-through-1 this? When, a team member brings me something, we've trained them to go 1-through-1 it. And if they don't, we'll say, hey, go 1-through-1 this and come back to me. Because imagine me with so many people I am dealing with in so many decisions. If I have to make every decision, I become the bottleneck. And so it slows down my momentum. And so if I empower them to give me more data, right, and be an owner, kind of think like an owner themselves, hey, here's the problem. Here's 3 possible solutions I came up with. And here's my 1 recommendation, right? I'm trying to think of one recently, like, I could give like a Rainmaker specific one, but let's just like make one up. Okay. So like, let's say your teenager comes to you and they're like, hey, I would love to like go to the Justin Bieber concert this summer. And it's like 500 miles away, right? Because this is not a problem. It's like a decision. Okay. And if you train them on this thinking, okay, they're gonna go, and here's my 3 possible solutions. No, solution number 1 is, you're going to pay for it and you're going to do things, right? Solution number 2 is, I have some stuff in my room I haven't used, like my PS5. I know I haven't played it with it in 9 months. Thinking about selling that as well as this to like fund this trip, right? Solution number 3 is like, maybe a combination of both. I'll sell some stuff and like maybe you guys could come with me, or I don't know, something, right? So it trains them to think through 3 ideas, because when you just think through 3 possible solutions to a problem, it just gets you thinking about like you're a solutionary. You're not an I can't-er, you're a how can I? Or okay. And if you need more than 3, that's fine. But oftentimes just thinking through 3, like those weren't great. All those 3, they weren't all great. There was like 1 that was good, right? But it helps you see how someone's thinking. Okay. If they come to you and all 3 are bad, then you need to train them thinking better, right? But if you oftentimes when someone comes to you, out of the 3, they like there's 1 good one, and that's the 1 recommendation. They're like, and my 1 recommendation, if I wasn't to do one of these, is this one, and here's why, right? And the cool thing is, if you're leading people and they're doing this 1-through-1ing stuff, and when they're bringing it to you, if they are constantly getting it right, like, wow, I thought through this, and here's my 1 recommendation, and you're like, I think that's the right one. If you see that enough, you can just say, hey, you don't need to come to me to like get approval for this thing anymore. Just like go do it, right? Now, of course, this is like a trajectory with kids, or it's a trajectory with team members to get to that level of trust, but this allows you to move fast. And for yourself, when a problem comes up, imagine doing this. Imagine if you posted in the mastermind group, when you have a problem, you don't just post the problem. What if you 1-through-1 it? Like this will make you start thinking, and it'll help people partner with that solutionary thinking to say, oh, wow, like out of those 3 solutions, I feel like that one, you're onto something. Let's go deeper on that, right? So I know sometimes it feels good to just like rant in the group. Right? You just need that release. But if you have a problem, like 1-through-1 it in the group, and you're going to get way better feedback. And it's going to start working that muscle of like overcomer. You're an overcomer. You're not going to get taken out at anything that comes up. Okay, 1-through-1. That's a great framework for small decisions. The other one I love is the 40-70 rule. This one's very helpful for the overthinkers, okay? Many overthinkers in the room, you're like, oh man, I had a friend message me the other day. He's like a local guy, wants to start a local like learning business. Like coaching how to learn better. I don't know. I'm still trying to like get his concept. But he's just like so overthinking it. He's just like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And he's been thinking about this for like months. It hasn't done anything to kind of move the idea forward. And so I was just hey, you should probably do the 40-70 rule. Like you should move forward on a decision. You should not do it when you have less than 40% of the information, right? Because when you have less than 40% of the information, you're kind of shooting blind, and it's not a really educated decision. But you shouldn't feel like you need more than 70% of the information, because if you do, you have almost too much information. It's like information overload, and sometimes it'll put you in analysis paralysis. So I'm a big believer in the 40-70 rule when it comes to when people bring me decisions, right? I'm like, don't bring me less than 40% and don't bring me more than 7% of the info, right? Just land me in that sweet spot and I'll move on it. And if it's the wrong decision, it's okay, right? But same thing for myself. Sometimes like you'll rack your brain trying to think through 100% of the information. And honestly, for a lot of stuff, you can't know 100% of the information. You just can't. And so you just get stuck there just like, well, maybe if I research it more, maybe if I read another book, maybe if I go to, another webinar, like you just like constantly trying to like eat information, right? But you're not moving. And so the 40-70 rule is a great rule to kind of just get you into freedom and go like, you know what? I have enough. I'm making this decision, right? Because we don't learn if we don't move. Like, right? Like I kind of see decisions like balls being pitched at you, right? And you don't know if it's in the sweet spot unless you swing at it once in a while, right? So the 40-70 helps you swing a little bit more and not be too afraid to miss. And the last one on the small decisions, and this one also does play into the big decisions, is alignment. And this is like, this is really knowing who you are and where you're going and your goals. And we work through a lot of this mindset in Rainmakers, but this is big for me and Chelsey. Like, does this align like with our North Star, right? Like if our North Star is like this vision for our life and this is where we're going, and here's our family values, and here's things that we're all about. Like, does this point towards that roughly, or is it like kind of a rabbit hole? Is it like taking us in a different direction? This is a really big one, And so sometimes it's hard to know. And sometimes, like there's faster pathways towards that vision. There's slower pathways, but this is a big one, especially like, when it comes to relational stuff, when it comes to business stuff, when it comes to new opportunities that come your pathway or things that people are asking you to say yes to, right? I'm always kind of like, doesn't align, and sometimes in certain seasons, it just doesn't, like in certain seasons, like, it just doesn't align. And so that's okay. Okay. So this is the small decision topic. I want to move over to the big decisions because that's been the thing I've been really chewing on the most, but so far, this is helpful. You guys can use one of these tools. Drop it in the chat. Which one of these three are you going to take and run with? 1-through-1, 40-70, alignment. I bet a lot of you guys are already doing the alignment one and checking on that. That one's going to lead us into the big decisions, but let me know. 1-through-1, 40-70, or alignment. Okay, 1-through-1. That one's been so helpful. I love the 1-through-1. It's just such a cool way of thinking and also a way of training thinking, like with people you lead in your life. Even just an exercise to go through with someone. A friend comes to you, big decision. Hey, why don't we 1-through-1 this together? I see this one thing happening. Let's go with 3 things, 3 solutions, 3 possible routes. All right. And then once you start talking this through, if you had to choose one right now, which one would it be? Love it. All right. Okay. So big decisions. Okay. So as we go into big decisions, these are the ones that keep you up at night. These are the ones that like you're talking to your friends about, you're talking to your mentors about, you are dreaming about, you are like tug of warring in your mind back and forth between this decision or that decision, like left or right, yes or no. You're having conversations, it's dominating your thoughts. Me and Chelsey have gone through one of these recently, and I'm speaking from just a lot of experience on just having a lot of these over time. But I think one of the biggest guiding mindsets I can give you in these decisions, and this is for those people that feel like I'm going to miss it. And so sometimes with these big decisions, because they feel so big, I use the word feel intentionally, because they feel so big, and oftentimes they are really big, but we can kind of get in a lack mindset, right? A lack mindset is a mindset of like, I'm going to miss it, right? Like I'm going to miss this thing. And so I've really shifted my mindset again to kind of like that. I gave that analogy of like someone pitching you balls. Like, here's a decision, here's an opportunity, like I think I see this a lot with real estate. Like anyone bought a house before, you're like, this is the house, like this is the one, and it comes up and then it's like, it falls through for some reason, or you get outbid. And then all of a sudden there's another, right? Oh, I almost don't like the lane water. That would be like classic Stephen. I'm going to move it further away because I always have it with water. But like, there's always another train, right? There's always another pitch that comes your way. And so abundance mindset says like, there's always going to be like enough, like I'm not going to miss it. And even if I swing at this thing and I like miss it, I'm giving air quotes. Okay. For those just listening out, even if I miss it, it's still going to be okay. Like I'm still going to like be like going towards this vision, right? I'm going to learn from it. And so this is a big thing that's freed me up from like getting too tied into like, shoot, I'm going to miss it. Cause that fear of like missing it, it can really, really hold you back. Okay. So I want to say that guiding mindset as we go into this, these big decisions, while they feel super big, sometimes life altering, crazy decisions. If you keep that abundant mindset around it, it's just going to help you like move through those things when the fear tries to come against you. The second thing that has really helped me, and this is something that I've had a mentor really speak into me, and I kind of like reworded it into my own language. But this has been so helpful, and I feel like once you see this, you'll be able to kind of like identify some of your own strengths too, because in big decisions, sometimes you need to lean on your own strengths, and sometimes you need to lean on the strengths of those around you. And so me and Chelsey, we have different strengths. We're actually wired differently in our entrepreneurship flavor. And so sometimes I have to lean on her, so I just lean on me. And I'll talk you guys through some real examples of this. But I really feel like there's like 5 main like entrepreneurial wirings. Okay, we have the pioneer, we have the visionary, we have a teacher, we have a shepherd, and we have an enroller. Okay, and I'm going to talk you through which each one of these are. And I want you to kind of like identify yourself as I'm going through these. Now you might be like 2 of these. Okay, so like I'm a pioneer visionary. Chelsea's a shepherd visionary. I'll talk you through what these are. So, pioneer, like this is like very common for entrepreneurs because you're the one that like is like the one that goes into new territory. Like you're always the one in the friend group, like doing the thing first. You're the one to like step out when no one else is stepping out. A pioneer is someone that goes into uncharted territory. They go into new land and they develop it, right? Like they like, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to Amazon. None of my other friends are doing Amazon. And I'm going to like make it happen. I'm going to like create systems, right? Pioneers are definitely system minded, and they can like create structure in that new territory to bring kind of order to it, right? And so pioneer is definitely one of my big strengths as an entrepreneur. Like I'm always kind of like taking that next step into whatever that next thing is, that uncharted territory. Really closely related to pioneer, and so I'm a pioneer visionary, is visionary, okay? And that is the person that like sees around corners. Like you have the vision, like you can just see it so clearly. Like you're just like, oh man, like I just like see where this could go. You know, and you can like almost see that around friends. Like a lot of friends come to you for advice because you can just kind of like see the future, right? And so you're very creative. You are very visual, imagination. Like you're just like imagining the vision of the future. And we hear that a lot for like entrepreneurs, like visionaries. Like Steve Jobs was a visionary, but Steve Jobs was like, I would say he's like a pioneer visionary because he's also willing to like go into new territory and do something that was like groundbreaking. It was like totally new, right? Shepherd is the one that like really takes care of the flock, right? Takes care of the flock. Like you're like the people person. You're like you're like the mama heart, right? You are the one to like really protect in movement in business. And so shepherds have a lot of strengths, but they also in big decisions, it can be hard for a shepherd to move sometimes because shepherds like to settle. They like to set up camp, right? And like safety, security, right? That's a shepherd. Teacher is someone like who has a real like a way of using words to create like simplicity, like to communicate a message, to take something complex and make it simple. This is really helpful in a business, right? Like having someone who can really clearly communicate and also like bring up others. Okay. And then an enroller is like it's like the marketer, like they're like the shout it from the rooftops person in the business. They're like kind of like the sales marketing side of the business. They're like going to, the enroller is like the friend who's like gets into CrossFit and is like, hey, you guys should do CrossFit. Like, here's why. Like, they're like telling it, like they're that person, right? Who's like, you want to like enroll people in your thinking. Like it's like kind of contagious. Like, I want to tell people about this, right? And so I definitely have some enroller in me. You could see that too. These are the 5, like I would say, main entrepreneur wirings, and you really need like, I feel like for a healthy business, you need really all 5 of these. If you are like a pioneer, oftentimes a pioneer carries a piece of each one of these because pioneers are the first, right? Like you're going to go into the new territory and you're going to like, have a vision to go. You're going to, once you get there, set up camp and you're a shepherd, right? You're going to teach, you're going to, bring up employees, you're going to enroll people into thinking, right? So pioneer oftentimes carries all five within them. Pioneer and visionary are definitely like foundational ones that like are just so helpful in the world of entrepreneurship. Like other things build a lot of times on top of those two. So why did I talk about these is because when you are making big decisions, you need to lean on the strength sometimes that aligns with where you're going. And so I'll just like practical example, like Chelsey is like, I'm a pioneer visionary. And so I'm like, let's go. I see it. Let's go. Right. And Chelsey is like a shepherd visionary. So she can see it, but she's also like, oh, well, like, like, I just want to make sure everyone's all right. Like, is everyone all right? Like she's got that. So like a lot of times, like she's thinking about you guys thinking, okay, like, oh, I want to take care of the people. And that's so good. We need that. Right. But sometimes when, let's say, let's see, what's a good example? Sometimes when there's a vision, right, that's really strong, and we know it's supposed to go somewhere, but it's going to be like maybe a little painful to take that step that direction, right? Maybe it's like a turning of the vine. Kind of we've talked about that a lot, where it's like, oh, we feel like we got to cut off this arm of the business to like actually go over here. And that's going to be painful because there's like people involved with that. Like those are good relationships. And like, oh, that's going to be really hard. Have all those hard conversations. Like sometimes like in that, if she's too much in her shepherd heart, it's going to really hurt her heart to move in the direction that we need to move in. It's going to really be hard, and she's going to want to take care of those people, and that's good. We should take care of people. But she needs to almost lean on the visionary side of things and lean on me, because like, we got to go here, man. I see it. You see it. All right, let's go. And then we make that decision, and it makes it easier, right? My pastor in my church, he's like a shepherd visionary. So he's got this big vision, but like not everyone at the church fits into that vision, and so like staff and stuff like that. And so it's like, it's super hard because it's like, I know we're supposed to go here. But his shepherd heart is like, oh, he keeps him stuck in like where he's at because he doesn't want to like, it's just super hard. So it's this balance, right? You see unhealthy visionaries too. Like Steve Jobs was an unhealthy visionary, to be honest. Like, he didn't have the shepherd side of him to tap into. Like, that's why I'm so glad I have Chelsey. Because like, if I didn't have her, I'd just boom, boom, just like bulldoze people, right? And Steve Jobs did that. Like Steve Jobs just bulldozed people in the name of the vision. Because the vision was so strong in him to go, but like he didn't care about people along the way. And so you just read a ton about Steve Jobs being, kind of an awful guy to work for because he was so strong visionary, but he didn't have a shepherd. Okay. And the same thing, like, same thing for me, like, oftentimes I need to lean into Chelsey because she has that shepherd side of her when we're making these decisions to make sure I'm taking care of the process. I'm not bulldozing, and so knowing your entrepreneurial wiring will help you lean into the other ones that are going to kind of round out these decisions. And oftentimes, if you're married or you're in a partnership, sometimes the other person has the strength you need for this decision. And so sometimes when Chelsey and I go through big decisions, sometimes I have the faith for it and she needs to lean on me. And sometimes she has the faith for it and I need to lean on her, So I know this house we moved into, the house I'm in now, like she had the vision for it. She like saw it. She just thought, she's like, that's it. I see it, And I was like, are you sure? I don't know. And I had to really lean on her with that decision. And I'm so glad I did. Right. And sometimes I see it. Oh, babe, we should do this investment. I see it. It's going to be awesome. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And she leans on my faith. And so if you have people around you that you can lean on, sometimes you need that in these decisions. And knowing your entrepreneurial wiring will help you lean into some of the other ones. That might be the thing you need to kind of get through it. In these big decisions, again, if you're coming in late, we're talking about big decision making and some frameworks that have really helped me in the process of making big decisions. And I feel like I can't talk about decisions without talking about like emotion versus logic versus faith. Okay. And so I would say most people, excuse me, I'm recovering from a little bit of a cough. So most people make a lot of emotional decisions. There's percentages around this, like when it comes to sales and even like things like that, people just make like emotional decisions. But I honestly find logic helps me a lot. And so I like to bounce back and forth between these, but ultimately like faith is the thing that gets me through like when it comes to these really big decisions. And I have some things I'll dive into with that. But emotion, like me and Chelsey are going through a big decision right now. And I'll just be honest with you, emotion's pendulum. Okay. So that's totally normal. If you have a big decision, like my mentor, he gave me this picture. I love the picture. He's like, some people are like at the bottom of the boat and some people are at the top of the mast, right? And like, like you're hitting the same waves, but the people at the top of the mast are like, they're like feeling it so much heavier. And so this current decision that we're like going through and making, we're feeling that pendulum, like, oh my gosh, like one day it's like, yes, 100,000%, like total faith. And then the next day it's like, are we crazy? This is stupid. What are we doing? Like, it's just like, that's totally normal. So I just want to normalize that. That's like emotions in decision making. And it's actually healthy to like go through that because it actually helps you really resolve the decision and go like, yes, this is really it. Right. Sometimes the emotions can't be trusted. Like sometimes like they're lies, they're things throwing you off and that's okay. But just know that it is kind of this pendulum. Another analogy, and I know it's kind of weird for me to make it, but like, it's kind of like birth. And I know Chelsea's about to have a baby because she goes like this, like, I can do this, I can't do this, I can do this, I can't do this. And I know we're about to have a baby, like we've had 2 babies, so I'm not like that experienced, but on the second baby, I was like, to the midwife, I'm like, she's about to have a baby. And the reason I knew is because right before she has the baby, she goes to here and she goes, I can't do this. And a lot of women experience this. They have like, they've written tons of things on this, that you go to this like, oh, I can't do that. That's like the moment you're about to like have a baby, right? It's like, I can't do it. And so in this decision, one of our mentors was saying, it's going to be a lot like birth because like, this is a big decision we're making. And we've just literally been like that. It's like the contractions of the decision making of like, sometimes you feel like you're like, we got this. And then like that night we're like freaking out. And then the next morning it's like, we get another confirmation or sign, or like I had a dream. Oh, we got this. And then like 2 days later, we're like back over here. And so just know that. And sometimes when you're making decisions, the contractions will get faster and faster and faster until you've made that decision and you're through, right? And so I know it's a weird analogy, but I know you guys understand. Okay. So, and I think like the emotion, it needs to be processed, and it needs to be processed for your heart's sake. You don't want to bury this stuff because we're going to make this big decision. We hadn't made it kind of in our minds, but we're chewing the pendulum. I went to a mentor. It was on one of the days that we had like a high day. It was like, oh, we saw this like white bird out the window, and like it was just crazy. Like, I don't know, like what was it? It was like this like crazy big white bird flew into our yard, and we just pay attention to like weird signs like that. And I call them signs, but like it's just weird. We paid attention to out of ordinary stuff. And I Googled this type of bird and the tree that it was in, and it was like these things meant a lot to me and Chelsea. Like they're just very specific to like the season we're in. And I was like, wow, this is like a confirmation that we're supposed to make this decision. And I went to a mentor, and I just like the advice he gave me was so powerful because like, yes, we need to pay attention to those things, right? Like I do believe we can hear by tapping into some of that stuff, right? Like confirmations and signs and dreams. And I've talked about that with you guys. But he's like, you don't want to just like, you really want to settle this in your heart because you don't want to just make a jump based on like some sign you saw, because if you haven't really fully processed this between you two, he's talking about me and Chelsea, like, and you just like make a decision, because I know Stephen, you have the faith. He's talking to me. He's like, you have the faith for this thing. You see it. You're the visionary pioneer. Like you see it, but you need to make sure Chelsea's heart is really settled on this. Because if you just make get her emotions going and her faith just on this one sign, and then you make this decision and it's not turning out to be the way you thought, then there's going to be a resentment there because you didn't really settle her heart in the process of making that decision. And so I would like say in that pendulum of emotion, just like be talking about it with people who are loved ones, who are healthy. And sometimes me and Chelsea, like, because in this decision we're making right now, or we've made, like, because it's been like this so much and we almost both feel a little fragile on it, because like we've been so shaky between like total faith and total like we're freaking out, that like we almost have to like ask permission before we bring it up to each other to be like, hey, is it okay if I just like freak out for a second without you freaking out? Because I like need you to be strong while we're shout, like you be strong while I freak out, right? So I just like, I want to bring the emotion into the conversation because it's a big piece of like really getting resolve around the decision you're making and going through it with the people in your life. The thing that helps me, I'm going to shift over to logic over here. And I often, it's funny because like Chelsea's very emotional. I'm also very emotional, but like the thing that actually helps us a lot sometimes is just going to the logic and just going like, hey, let's run the numbers again. Like, let's just like run the numbers again. Or like, let's do a, I wrote it down here, like a best case, worst case, like just, what's the best case of this decision? Like what's all the amazing stuff that could happen? And that's typically where I go first. I'm like, hey, let's talk about all the amazing stuff. And then like, let's really talk through like the worst case, let's like really talk through. And I actually got emotional talking to this mentor because we've just been processing this decision with him. And he like really took us there with the worst case. He's like, say you do this thing and it like just, oh, this happens and like this happens and this happens. Like, then what? Right. And it was just like, at the end of the day, it was like, okay, still have each other. We still have our boys. We still have loved ones and friends around us. And I just got emotional just being like, we're putting so much weight on this decision, and like really like the worst case is like, we still have everything that really matters, And it really kind of like just brought it down to earth of like, okay, we're making this too big. And it brought me back to the abundant mindset. I'm not a big fan of like going down the spiral of like worst case scenarios, but it did like when you actually go there, like Chelsey was doing some mindset coaching with another mindset coach and talking about her kind of like coming out more in social media and like really releasing her voice. Like one of her themes this year is just really like releasing the voice. Like she's done all this internal growth, but hasn't really publicly shared as much about it. So if you're not already following her on Instagram, you should, because it's all coming out now. But like she was just wrestling with people like misunderstanding her, and her mindset coach really just had to walk her through that. Like, well, people are going to misunderstand you. People are going to hate you. When we were on Jenna Kutcher's podcast in December, we found this like Reddit. You guys know Reddit? It's like a social media site. We found this like Reddit devoted to like hating Jenna Kutcher. Like just hating on her. Like 600 people in this Reddit just hating on her. Every single post she makes on social media, she's got 1 million followers. Every single post she makes, just hating on her. And so like me and Chelsey had that moment of like, count the cost of where we're going, and what we're doing, what we're building. Like, are we willing to like have that too? And so Chelsey had to really walk through this in her mind, because that was holding her back from saying things she wanted to say, from stepping out in the way she knew she wanted to step out on social media, because she was counting the cost of like, man, what's the worst case? But once she started really running through it in her head, oh, that like high school friend who like doesn't really matter is going to hate on you and gossip about you, or that random stranger is going to say something, like, it's just like, it helps get through it, right? It helped move through it. And that logic, right? Like we kind of are using logic to make these decisions sometimes. It really helps. For me, like it's a financial thing, a spreadsheet helps. Like literally yesterday, we have this decision you have to make in the business, and it'll cost us $10,000 a month. And like, we're on this trial period with this vendor, and it's like, if it works, like you'll pay us $10,000 a month to make this thing happen, but it's going to lower your cost by this, right? And it's like not really lowering the cost enough for me to like see the vision of like, this is worth $10,000 a month. And that's a lot of money. It's like a full-time A-player, $120,000 a year employee, right? And so I'm like, we can't just make a decision lightly. So I went back to them. I'm like, I want a spreadsheet. I want a spreadsheet of like, this is the cost. This is what's happening. Like, here's the conversion rate. There's, and if it drops to this, I literally want to see like, not just $10,000 a month in savings. I want to see multiples of $10,000 a month in savings. That helps me logically commit to this thing that feels kind of scary financially. It's just running the numbers. So that's logic. Okay. And then lastly, faith. And this is really where we operate a lot in these big decisions, because sometimes big decisions, I would say almost every time, you just don't know. And so a lot of times in entrepreneurship, we got to operate in that muscle of faith. And so a couple tools or frameworks I use when it comes to like making decisions, but like tapping into faith in that is this. And I've talked about this with you guys before, but we call this spiritual intelligence. So like you've heard of IQ, right? You've heard of EQ, emotional intelligence. SQ is your spiritual intelligence. And we actually did a Mentorship Monday on this if you're new to Rainmakers. And we got such good response on it. We actually put it on the podcast. So it's episode 149, and it's about how to get ahead in your dream life, okay? In your dreams. There's so many like world-changing inventions, Nobel Peace Prize winners. Like there's so many like these like major things that have happened in the world that you're probably using to this day that came from dreams. Rainmakers came from a dream. Yeah, it's like Rainmakers literally like was guided by a dream. Like we were kind of like we had a lot of different businesses that had this dream, and it really helped me narrow focus into leaning into this thing. And so if you're not paying attention to your dreams, it's an important thing to do, especially in big decisions. I had a negotiation I had to do that was super intense last year with someone who was a partner in one of our businesses. And literally, I just had like 75% of the strategy. Like, I really wanted to come with him, like, to this guy with like, I need this, this, and this, right? But I only had like 75% of like the strategy, and I was like, wasn't strong enough. I was going to lose this argument. I was going to lose the negotiation, and it would cost us a lot of money. And literally, I had a dream the morning of, or like the night before this meeting, with like just a visual picture. There's this picture of a tree, and it was like so simple, but it gave me this analogy that I could bring into the meeting. And it was such a powerful analogy that we just like in the negotiations just kept coming back to this visual. And it was like, that was the full picture. And like, that was so cool. Right. And I believe God is speaking to me in my dreams. You believe whatever you want, but like, if you want to learn more about dreams and how to have them, how to record them, how to like steward them, multiply them, and like actually profit from them, like in your life, like have a thriving life from insight that's coming through your dreams. Episode 149 in the podcast, it's a Mentorship Monday call like this. We go like super into dreams. It's super fun. Okay. So we pay attention to the stuff in decisions. Okay. I record all my dreams every night. And so I have a note on my phone. And so when something comes up, like this decision we're going through right now, I go search that note for keywords related to that thing. And like literally with this, this particular thing, this decision we're making right now, and also my friends are dreamers. Okay. So my friends dream and they tell me their dreams. If the dream is about me, I'm like, tell me about it. Right? And so you just get to message me if you have dreams about me. And so we have a backyard ADU, like a additional dwelling unit. That's what they call like a guest house in California. It's like a tiny house back there that we rent out. And it's been like the longest project ever. We started it in 2020. And we honestly thought it'd be done in like 2020. Like we thought we'd like finish it pretty quickly. It literally just finished. Okay. Like it took so long to make this thing because their contractors were not great. But anyways, my friend Mason, who's had multiple dreams about me that have been very accurate related to things we're doing. He's like he's had dreams like, I see you like specific stuff. I see you like with like Damon John from Shark Tank. That next week, I'm like a speaker at an event where Damon John is there. Like spooky stuff like that. I'm like, wow. So I pay attention when this guy shares dreams with me. I'm like, I write him down. He has a dream in 2022 saying when the ADU is finished, there's this, and this that happened. And so I forgot about it, but it's in my dream note. And so when I started searching keywords related to this decision, guess what came up? That dream from 2022. And it says when the ADU is finished. The ADU just finished, you guys, when this decision is coming in. So that gives me, again, I'm not making a decision completely off that thing. Okay. I'm looking for multiple confirmation points. Okay. I'm looking for mentors in my life. I'm looking for these things. Okay. But dreams is a big piece of it. And a lot, when I look back, like if you look back at your life, I would honestly say maybe it's not dreams for you, but like when you look at the big decisions in your life, the big shifts in your life, the big 10x jumps in your life, what were the themes? Like, what were the themes that like helped you make that decision? Like, what were the things that like gave you confidence in that decision? What was that decision involving, right? And so when you look back, I think that's a really good thing, tap into this kind of spiritual intelligence, but like just look at your history, right? And sometimes you can see, wow, like every time I like had this major shift, it was because I blank, right? It's because I did this or I did that, right? So that's a huge clip for these decisions. Okay. And that's actually the second one. That's actually prophetic patterns. We call it prophetic patterns or confirmations. I always look for patterns, right? Like I've had like you guys have heard some of our stories. I don't need to tell all the story, but we've had moments, like I feel like testing moments with money that like kind of like test our character, me and Chelsey. And they always like are some sort of variation of fives. So it's like 500, 5,000. We've been tested at 500, 5,000. 50,000 and 500,000. I call these tests because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like life is kind of like a video game. And sometimes there's like bosses. And to get to the next level, you need to conquer the boss. That's just like what I think. And so it often has the boss is like the same. It's basically like the same boss that you've conquered before, but it's like just kind of like bigger. Or it's like not the same. It's not bigger. It's just a new level, right? And so if we're truly going to be a place that like people have thrive in their finances, like we have to master it constantly ourselves at another levels. If we go to another level with it, then like you guys can go to another level because we've broken through and our breakthrough makes it easier for you to break through, right? So I've just noticed this because like it's happened so many times. And like literally in this decision, in this process, like we had a moment that like actually with these contractors. So again, it's always 5,000, 50,000. It's always some sort of five number. And it's like always kind of like I feel like it's a test to say like, you know, are you going to choose abundance, right? Are you going to choose abundance? Or are you going to go back to scarcity, right? Sometimes sometimes it's like giving away $50,000. Sometimes it's like investing $50,000. In this case, it was the contractors who did this ADU. They were not good at like, they just like, the more we got into it, they were just like, they just did a lot of things wrong and they couldn't admit that they did them wrong. Okay. And so as we're digging into the numbers, because I was like, they'd done a lot of stuff wrong. That's why this thing took 4 years. So when they started sending me the bills, I'm like, I better look into this. I bet like the bill, they're wrong. I bet we've way overpaid them, right? Because they keep asking for more money. So I started digging into it with my EA, and we realized not only is it wrong, but we overpaid them $50,000. And so when this happened, immediately I knew it was a test. It was a test in my character. Am I going to do the right thing? Because I knew I would do the right thing if it wasn't 50,000, but the 50,000 is a prophetic pattern in my life that like, is like, this is something to pay attention to. Are you going to choose abundance or are you going to choose scarcity? I had all reason to keep the $50,000 and not tell them about this because they took so long. We could have rented it out. I could like justified it in my mind, right? But I knew 50,000. This is a test. It's a test. Do I choose abundance and let money go through me, or do I choose scarcity and and go against what I say I believe, right? And so we kind of call it them. We show them a spreadsheet. Here's your formula. We overpaid you $50,000. And honestly, if we've done this and this is the template you're using for all your clients, you've probably lost tons of money throughout the years, right? Like if you're using this for every client, because like this formula is wrong. We did the right thing by saying that, and I'm willing to pay them an extra $50,000. Or sorry, yeah, because we underpaid. Did I say overpaid? Yeah, sorry, we underpaid. Okay, I think I said overpaid. So we owed them an additional $50,000 that we didn't pay them. Okay, so we underpaid. I think I said that wrong. So we show them, we're like, we owe you an extra $50,000. You thought it was 15 or whatever. And so, yeah, sorry, you guys are so confused. And the thing that like literally the contractors couldn't handle was being wrong. And so they just couldn't handle it. They just were like, no, I think the formula is right. Like I think it's 15,000. I'm like, okay, like here, we'll show you, share our screen. We walk them through it. You guys take it home, like think about it, like, and come back to me, happy to pay the $50,000. And they're like, no, I think we're good. They literally could not admit. That was like the thing that like kind of cursed them the entire time of the project was the thing that that was their pattern. Yeah. Someone said in the chat. Right. And so but it was a test. I was like, dang, I passed the test. Okay. That was a test. It was a test for me to show my character in front of my executive assistant, who was a brand new hire at the time. And for him to see, because he was the one that actually found it, like what's Stephen going to do in this? Right. It's a test for me to step into abundance when like, oh man, like it would have been so nice to have the extra $50,000 to go to something. Right. But I chose to say like, we're going to do this thing. And guess what? Got rewarded for it. Like didn't have to pay it. That was so cool. Like they just won 15,000 and we're done. Right. And so it's a pattern I've seen throughout our life. And so when stuff comes up and it's like that kind of, it's around 50,000 or it's like 5,000 or 500, whatever it is, I just know it's like has to do with our calling and like what we're doing with money. Like we're called to bring people into abundance financially. And so if we're truly going to walk in that and reflect what we carry and those we lead, we need to have authority by passing those tests and not being corrupt in those things. And so anyways, that was a long one, but look at the prophetic patterns in your life. Like, how are you seeing things? Like I said, I always pay attention to signs and like just random stuff. If you're like, that was weird, just dig into it. Okay. There could be something there that's helping you, like this random bird that showed up in our yard that we've never seen in Chico before. And we Googled what type of bird it was and like meaning behind it. And it kind of played into some stuff. And so we've had lots of stuff happen like that. That is helpful. It's again, you're not gonna make a major decision off one little sign, but it's just nice when you're just like, man, I'm feeling like we're moving this direction with this decision. And you get some like little nudges and confirmations. I call these like heavenly winks. When you get those, it's just so helpful. Okay. I got one more, I think, for you guys. I talked about life signs. Oh yeah. Life signs. What I mean by that is like what I talked about, looking at the patterns of your life. like the big decisions, the big shifts. The book, what's it called? 10x is easier than 2x. Such a good book. Talks about this, looking at these big 10x jumps in your life and looking at like, what was the commonalities between those things? Like, what was that big, like, what was the 80% new thing you had to do? Right. And what was the 20% thing that stayed? And so when I look at that in my life, I can see like patterns. And so that's a really helpful exercise when you're making big decisions. It kind of goes with that one I said before, like, does it align? Does it align with my life patterns, right? The book is called 10X is easier than 2X. And that was like my favorite exercise in that book. We went through it in Mexico with our Rainmaker retreat, because it's so impactful in my life just to see that pattern. And then when decisions come my way, if they fit that pattern, I know like, oh yeah, that's my superpower. I got to stay in that superpower zone, because that's the thing that always helps me go to the next level. Last one is ask healthy mentors. Ask healthy mentors with authority. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. I'm really losing my voice. I have some caveat words in here. Okay. Healthy mentors. Healthy mentors are people that like you love what's happening in their life and you love that to happen in your life. Right. It's not like, oh, they got all the business success, but they destroyed their marriage along the way. Right. Like if you want that in your life, then sure, like get advice from them. But like, I like to ask healthy mentors who also have authority. They don't just know about a topic, but they've actually walked through a topic. So authority, I see it like they're the ones who have gone through the jungle ahead of you with the machete, and they have like the battle scars to prove it. Like that's authority. And I believe like that's why I can teach on money and abundance, finances, because we have literally gone through the ringer on those things. And so I can reflect that to you guys. I have authority in those topics. Okay. So we asked a lot of the current decision that we're going through. We were thinking about moving, and asked a mentor, about moving. Right. And, we were all worried about the finances. We were all like, oh, but the mortgage payment. And like, we were like worried about the finances, and had a healthy mentor. We asked this question too. We just like, we're kind of workshopping this with them. And, they said, it's not about the money at all. Like it's not about the money. It's about the place. It's about the people you're going to meet there. It's about your purpose, right? It's about proximity to the things in that area. Like those things are so much more valuable than money. You're all tied up thinking about the money. Like think about these things. What is the value of these things? We started to go into those deeper questions of like, wow, okay, I see it. It's not about the money. We can figure out the money, right? It was about this other thing. Because sometimes in these big decisions, we get tied into like one way of thinking. Like it's about this one thing. But when you have healthy mentors who have actually walked some of these things out, and you ask them these questions, they will ask the deeper question. It's like, what is a deeper root thing here that I really need to dig in with you here? Because it's not this, And so having people you can ask those questions is so important. And bonus one for you guys. I think there's one more on here. Don't hide the decision. Okay. So decision means like you're like a choice is something that like you're choosing, but you might bounce back and forth between choice. But when you fully made a decision, like that word means to like cut off. Okay. Decision, like incision, right? Decision, you are cutting off the other option. Okay. And so once you've made that decision, okay, sometimes you're penduluming for a while, and that's okay. But you're like the current decision me and Chelsey are going through, we're kind of like, we've made the decision, but we have faith only for like the next step. So we're like, we are going to walk it out. That's what we're kind of saying constantly right now. We're like, we're going to walk it out. We'll take the next step. We're going to take the next step. And we've made the decision to walk it. And I think it's going to go that direction, but we're just going to walk it out unless something comes up. We're going to, how can I, and all the stuff, right? But it's just you've made the decision. What is so helpful to do, and this is what I see, what we used to not do, me and Chelsey, once you've made the decision, talk about it, because this will only make it stronger. Because as you start to talk about it, you have to like resolve other people's responses. Like you have to like there's a certain decision we were making, and again, mentor in our life was like, we were kind of like keeping it a secret. And then he like, you need to tell your family about this now, because like when this thing happens, it's going to feel really fast for them. And so, you should tell them right now. Like, and so we like literally like that next weekend, we like brought the family into it. We're like, hey, this isn't happening right now. It's going to happen in the future. But we made this decision and we want to lead you guys into this because we love you. And we just want to like talk it through with you guys. And it was so good because the questions that they asked and the stuff that was brought up in them with this decision, it actually helped us think through different angles, and actually have more resolve with the decision we had made. And so, I mean, you go to Amazon, so a lot of you made the decision, I'm going to build an Amazon business. I'm going to do Rainmakers, right? But sometimes you kind of like do it aside, you do it in secret, right? And so when you're on your own, when you're in a silo, you are just more vulnerable to like just things taking you out, honestly. And so when you start to talk about, you start to bring other people into the process and they start to challenge that thinking, right? It actually it like tests your decision, right? Are you going to go, hey, actually that was a good point you just made there. Let me get back to you on that. And you go research it and you're like, okay, actually, no, I am going to keep doing this thing, right? Like it helps you resolve it more when you start to talk out, you start to bring other people into it and you start to have community around it. And you can't, like with all, I'm not just talking about Amazon, but just some decisions are, not everyone's okay with them.
You can't control people's reactions to the decisions, but sometimes even if the reaction is not great, it's going to do something in you to help you. Like, if you've truly made the decision, it's not going to derail you. It's going to help you have more resolve with the decision and actually kind of work it out more in your heart that you're like, I've made this decision. I'm moving forward on this thing. And so sometimes having those other voices in your life, even if they're not in agreement with the decision, can really help you like strengthen the decision. Does that make sense? So you don't want to share it right away sometimes because sometimes it's not strong enough in you. You haven't involved yourself or sold yourself on the decision and you're still in this zone of like going back and forth. But when you're ready, family is a great place to start because family is kind of like that inner circle. They're the ones who are really going to say the stuff about it. And then friends, close friends who are honest. And then from there, you kind of go into wider and wider. Okay.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. If you're not a part of our mastermind yet, I want to say I think you're missing out. Our heart here at Rainmaker is to create total abundance for you. That's why we're offering a free one-on-one family freedom design session for you, our faithful listener.
Yeah, if you want to hop on a call with our team, see if it's a good fit to build a business that creates time freedom for you, financial abundance, and helps you leave that thriving family legacy. That's what we're all about in our mastermind. You can grab a time on our team's calendar at rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind. Again, that's rainmakerfamily.com/mastermind.